All right, we're on to the next couple RBD here. Looks like we got a couple of short ones. This one is the exporting RBD diff between clone and parent. Lee, this was your folks. Are you guys around? Lee and Yin Chen?
Yeah. I think we should move column rate before the RBD diff. Lee is not here right now.
Oh, he's not there.
Oh, okay.
Do you want to do the copy and read first? Is that what you said? Or do you want to wait? We could also take a break if you want to wait for a minute.
We could do the copy on read first if you would prefer.
Okay. Already has been implemented in RBD, so this algorithm is already been accepted. So I just translate it into the kernel client. I think the performance improvement has been modified by using collab list. So I want to add the callback request to the kernel client just as RBD image request. As I know, the cotton write in kernel client is implemented at the function RBD image object request submit. So I want to and as a cotton read algorithm just as this function too. I've just write modify the code and do some tests on the client, but I found the implement logic is a little difference beyond my analysis. So George, would you please give some suggestions?
Let's see. So yeah, I get the logic is a bit different in the kernel client in that it doesn't have this kind of state machine structure yet in exactly the same way that user space does. I think it might be a good idea to introduce that kind of state machine, especially since with adding when we're adding this copy and read ability, since there are, and in the future there will also be other kinds of extra states that we'll want to have. So I think it makes sense to start to restructure the kernel copy and write path to use that kind of state machine technique that the user space does as well. So we'll want to do that, use that for this copy and read, copy and write, as well as the future things like the object map support that will eventually be ported to the kernel as well. So that might be the
first step.
Actually, the first step, just refactoring the existing copy and write stuff into a state machine that will make it easier to add the copy and read to the second step.
I think there is a difference between the kernel and RBD because I can't use a structure map but use a list head instead. So but there is not an API like find find the object number and is corresponding in callback request. So I will traverse the list callback list and find which object callback request is already on the list. So I think its performance will be not as good as the structure map.
Yeah, and that's really just used for when you have multiple requests going to the same object that's having copy and read performed on it, and delaying that the copy up if you have like writes going to the same object at the same time, right? So it seems like that could be like a third step optimizing that to actually use a separate list after getting the copy and read working without worrying about doing a bit of extra work in the case of simultaneous requests to the same object. So I'd suggest maybe in the first step just using the list, since that's and not even having that list at all, since that's kind of an optimization, and just or perhaps it's using the list for keeping track of which ones are in flight for when you have multiple reads to the object. So you don't only trigger copy and read on the first read, but maybe worrying about optimizing it for like looking at keeping track of things more efficiently, or looking it up when you're doing writes, and not doing copy up for writes. That could be a second optimization later. Does that make sense?
So how do I use the AIO operator just as a RBD, because I found that there are callback before the callback is set for the OT request, and then it will be activated by the when the request is finished and the callback is activated by the network network device. So either this is the AIO operate we want.
Yes, I mean basically in the kernel, instead of having the same kind of the Liberator style API, It's more constructing the individual OSD requests more manually, and creating an OSD request, adding operations to it, sending it out, and then associating a callback with it.
Okay.
I'm not sure that we need to add anything more there. I think that should all be fine. It's kind of the kernel side of the API for actually adding more than one operation to a given request might be a little bit more limited than user space, just because it only does exactly what it's needed to do so far. So if you run into any problems there, we can certainly look into fixing that up and making it more capable. But I'm not sure that any of that's needed for copy and read.
Yes, currently the RBD implemented copy read. When they already read is finished, and then the call object from parent will start up. So there are two two operations read from parent. The one is read a part of object, and the second is read the entire object. So we can improve it and just the two operations or maybe more.
Yeah, you're saying that there's right now the kernel client's doing two operations when it could be doing one. I think
yes.
I think that's true for copy and write. Yeah, it's certainly something we should fix at some point. It would be great if we fixed it as part of the copy and read stuff, since it would be doing the same thing.
I think if we merge them into one, the origin read request will be blocked, and the performance will be decreased. So
yeah, I think it makes perfect sense to combine them to one operation, just like user space.
And another question is that the copy write in the kernel client is used as default, so we want to use copy write as an optional. So is there a method to turn on or turn off the option in the space, just like RBD map operation?
Yeah, so I think a while back, Ilya added support for this passing generic options down for RDMap. So you just do like RBD map -o and then the option name, and the kernel interprets what it can from that. So you don't actually need to change the user space tool at all. It just passes through. You can just add a copy and read option to the RBD module, and the existing user space RBD map will be able to pass that down.
Okay.
How are we doing on this one?
Is there anything else you wanted to ask, Min?
No, I don't know.
All right.
Sounds like we're good then.
All right. Excellent.